now smells like a humid day inside Joy Behar's moo-moo. The motives stink worse than Joy Behar's jog bra. I mean, assuming she jogs. Oh, wait, there she is. She has a point. Maybe I am obsessed, but some people are obsessed with Bigfoot, and they don't get to see him on TV every afternoon. And if they did, could they tell the two apart? I don't know. But,
and by the way, out there, that hat that you keep wearing, that red hat that says "Make America Great Again," that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Don't do that. Let's not do that.
Because we see it anyway.
I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap, because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. I don't want to live in that country. I don't want to live in the country where I hate half the country, and I don't hate half the country.
How dare you disagree with me?
Joy Behar didn't just walk into a controversy. She practically somersaulted into it with a microphone in one hand and a hot take in the other. Imagine this. Two of the most different men in American media, Bill Maher and Gutfeld, both taking aim at the same target without planning it, without teaming up. Just two completely separate voices reaching the exact same conclusion, that Joy Behar has become the queen of political nonsense. Not because she's evil or corrupt, but because she represents everything that's gone wrong with TV talk shows. On one hand, you have Bill Maher. He's not shouting, he's not laughing, he's disappointed. It's like your tired uncle at Thanksgiving calling out everyone's nonsense while sipping a drink. And then there's Gutfeld. He's the loud, sarcastic guy in the back of the class, throwing spitballs and cracking jokes, and somehow, he's still making more sense. Two completely different styles, same brutal result.
Last week, Joy Behar accused Elon Musk of being pro-apartheid, but then begged him afterwards not to sue. Musk lawyers have yet to comment because they're still checking to see if it's legal to sue a cow.
Shots fired.
Just a legal question. I don't know why it's so upsetting. I don't make the rules in this country. All right.
So, what did Joy do to end up in this roast? Nothing new. Just the usual loud opinions, dramatic reactions, and claiming the moral high ground every time someone disagrees. But this time, her routine met a buzzsaw. Maher sliced into her with calm sarcasm. Gutfeld went full stand-up mode. And suddenly, Joy wasn't leading a panel, she was the punchline. By the way, before we continue, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and share more intriguing stories. Now let's continue.
Called The View?
It's called The View. It's not called The Facts.
Yeah, but
It's
isn't it interesting that it's called, I mean, I don't think they meant this when Barbara Walters invented it a long time ago, but it's The View.
Well,
that's the problem in America. There is one view.
Right, and
one
that's clearly
true opinion, and everybody else can go sit in the corner.
That's correct. I think that's not.
Bill Maher didn't need to name-drop Joy Behar to make his point. It was obvious who he was talking about. He went after the exact type of person Joy has become on The View, someone who replaces actual debate with emotional outbursts and thinks applause equals accuracy. Maher's style isn't loud or aggressive. He uses that tired, frustrated tone like he's been explaining basic logic to people who think memes are news. And his main frustration? People like Joy turning political talk into shallow theater. Maher's commentary was razor sharp. He described shows where facts take a back seat, where hosts react like offended actors in a drama club instead of informed thinkers. He mocked the fake moral superiority, the need to constantly look offended, and the obsession with being right instead of being real.
Said that Gutfeld talks about you all the time.
Who is he? Really, who is he?
I don't watch the show.
He has a show.
I don't watch the
never
show.
heard of him.
Yeah.
I guess he's just obsessed with me.
No. Next, Joy's going to say she's never heard of carbs. Seriously, her denial of knowing me is as believable as her red hair. But obsession? I mean, come on, Joy. Where would you even get that idea? Like Joy Behar's face, it's looking worse and worse by the day. More full of crap than Joy Behar after a night of scotch at Taco Bell. Her being named Joy is like me being named ugly. Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture.
All of this fits Joy Behar like a tailored jacket. She doesn't just argue, she performs. Maher called that out hard, with sarcasm so sharp you could hear it slice through the set of The View even if he never said her name. And what really made this sting? Maher wasn't coming from the right. He's from her own side of the political spectrum. That's what makes it powerful. It's not the usual back and forth between left and right. It's someone from her own political zip code basically saying, "We've had enough." Joy didn't just get criticized, she got exposed by someone who knows her playbook from the inside. Gutfeld, on the other hand, didn't hold back, not even a little. If Maher came in with a scalpel, Gutfeld showed up with a sledgehammer and a smirk. His entire approach to Joy Behar was pure demolition. No polite critique, no passive-aggressive comments, just brutal, sarcastic, laugh-out-loud mockery. To him, Joy isn't a serious commentator. She's a walking, talking comedy routine that writes itself. He tore into her the way a late-night comic goes after a politician who's had one too many scandals. He joked about everything, her constant outrage, her desperate need for attention, even her appearance. Some of it was petty, sure, but it was designed to sting, and it did. Gutfeld framed her as someone who graduated summa cum laude from the school of shouting over people. And the punchline? That she thinks yelling her opinion at top volume makes her sound smarter.
I just want them to pay attention to words like vermin and poisoning the blood and the Third Reich. That's all. That's really what I'm asking.
They see Trump as a comedian. They see him as a clown who says crazy things.
They saw Hitler like that.
Right, okay, but that doesn't mean, you can hate Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It is half the
What's worse or maybe better, depending on your sense of humorous, that his roast landed because it hit on something real. Joy's delivery has become so over the top, so full of smug confidence, that even her critics don't need to exaggerate. They just quote her and watch the audience cringe. And when Gutfeld said she's the intellectual version of a toddler banging on a piano loud, chaotic, and technically still called a performance, didn't feel like a joke. It felt like the most brutally accurate thing said about The View in years. What made this whole situation explode wasn't just that Maher and Gutfeld both went after Joy, it's that they did it without even trying to coordinate. No planning, no script sharing, no team up. These two guys come from opposite political planets. One hosts a show where he lectures about liberal ideals, the other fires off jokes like he's in a dive bar on open mic night. And yet, both landed on the same conclusion. Joy Behar has become a living, breathing symbol of everything broken in political media. Think about that for a second. When two people who can't even agree on what day it is both decide that you are the problem, that's not coincidence. That's a wake-up call. And the most telling part? Joy wasn't even present for some of this. She wasn't sitting there defending herself. She didn't need to be. Her track record was enough material. Her face, her voice, her constant interruptions on the wall of it lives rent-free in the heads of people who've been watching political discourse crumble into a mess of applause signs and coffee mug slogans. This wasn't just about roasting one person. It became a cultural moment. Like when two critics walk into a movie theater separately, watch the same terrible film, and both walk out saying, "That was painful."
State is getting hit with one of the worst hurricanes that they will ever see.
But she should know. Does anyone remember that time when she got carried away by Hurricane Sandy? Take a look. Thank you.
Only this time, the movie wasn't fiction, it was Joy Behar on live TV. And the reviews came in louder than ever. One of the most ridiculous moments that sparked this whole firestorm was when Joy Behar compared wearing a MAGA hat to wearing a swastika. Yeah, she actually said that, not in a slip-up, not as a joke. She meant it. And that was the moment where Bill Maher, a lifelong liberal who's no fan of Trump, basically said, "Enough is enough." He didn't defend Trump. He didn't even try to justify the hat. What he did say was simple. Hating Trump is one thing. Hating everyone who voted for him is something else entirely. And when you start treating half the country like Nazis just because of who they voted for, you've crossed into dangerous territory. Maher said it plain. "I don't want to live in a country where I hate half the people in it." And that hit hard, because that's exactly what shows like The View have been pushing this idea that if you don't agree, you're the enemy.
And finally, new rule: stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
And Joy, with her over-the-top reactions and "I speak for all good people" tone, has been leading that charge for years. This moment with the MAGA hat wasn't just offensive, it was ignorant. It made it clear that Joy wasn't trying to build bridges or have conversations. She was there to stir the pot and declare herself morally superior while waving a flag of outrage. And when Maher called her out, it wasn't some grand political statement. It was just someone finally saying what a lot of people were thinking. Joy Behar's habit of turning The View into her personal soapbox isn't new, but it's finally catching up to her. For over 20 years, she's taken every topic from celebrity gossip to global crises and twisted it into a dramatic TED Talk that no one asked for. And she does it with the kind of confidence usually reserved for Nobel Prize winners or cult leaders. One week, she accused Elon Musk of supporting authoritarianism, then immediately begged not to get sued. She throws accusations like darts in the dark, hoping something sticks. And when it doesn't, she pivots with a nervous laugh, as if the audience is supposed to pretend it never happened.
Here's Joy Behar talking about refusing to share a kidney.
I find it friends bizarre. With a Trump supporter. I won't give them a kidney, but I could be friends with them.
Hey, Joy, it's a kidney, not a pizza. Of course, she's kidding at first, but then she goes on to explain the moral foundation for her resentment, and it's the same one that drives all deadly ideologies.
Gutfeld wasted no time pointing out how ridiculous this behavior has become. He joked that Musk's lawyers are still checking if it's legal to sue a cow. Brutal? Yes. Funny? Absolutely. But also weirdly on point. Because Joy doesn't argue with facts, she argues with feelings. And when her feelings get challenged, she doubles down harder. She's become like that retired theater teacher who discovered Twitter and decided the world needed to hear every single one of her thoughts loudly, emotionally, and always with a sprinkle of moral outrage. Every episode turns into a performance where the facts are optional and her opinion is gospel. That's what's made her the perfect target. Not because she's alone in this behavior, but because she's so good at representing the worst version of it. And when both Maher and Gutfeld see her as the face of that problem, you know it's not just a one-time thing. It's a pattern, one that's finally being called out in front of everyone.
If The View is your favorite show, you might be a little slow. Yes, it's time for
Our View on The View.
Very serious music. They love to play the race card because logic for them is hard.
Then came the most surreal twist of all. Joy Behar tried to pretend she didn't even know who Greg Gutfeld was. On air, she shrugged him off like some random nobody, saying things like, "Who is he?" and "I don't watch that show." Now, if that was true, fine. But considering how often Gutfeld jokes about her and how loud those jokes have become, it's nearly impossible to believe she's totally clueless. Gutfeld, of course, didn't let that slide. He clapped back with pure comedy.
I want to talk about Whoopi Goldberg because I got so many texts this week because she attacked me the week before.
Sure.
So she was, everybody was like, oh, Bill, I get you're enjoying the karma. First of all, I'm going to talk about this at the end of my show next week, teaser. But there is no fucking thing as karma, okay? Get over that. Whoopi attacks me on a regular basis. She says stupid shit on a regular basis. It just happened to coincide. But
Next, Joy's going to say she's never heard of carbs. Then he took it further, ripping apart her denial like it was a used script from The View. He called it as fake as her hair and as full of it as Joy after a late-night Taco Bell binge. It was cruel, but it was comedy, and people were eating it up. This moment exposed something deeper. Joy wasn't just pretending not to know Gutfeld. She was trying to act like his criticism didn't matter, like it was beneath her. But that only made her look worse, because ignoring someone who's clearly gotten under your skin doesn't make you classy. It makes you look rattled. And that's the thing. Joy's whole image depends on her being untouchable. The wise woman on the panel, the truth teller. But this time, the jokes weren't bouncing off. They were landing hard. And her fake indifference? It was just more proof that the criticism had hit exactly where it hurt. Now, let's talk about Bill Maher's deeper attack not just on Joy Behar as a person, but on what she represents. He didn't throw cheap shots. He dismantled the entire culture Joy has helped create on The View. The one where clapping replaces thinking, and loud opinions drown out actual logic. Maher pointed to the rise of hosts who confuse applause with truth. People who believe that if the studio audience cheers, their point must be valid. And nobody fits that description better than Joy. Her whole delivery is built on crowd, reaction, smug nods, dramatic pauses, the raised eyebrows of faux wisdom. But Maher wasn't fooled. He called it exactly what it is: emotional theater dressed up as political commentary. He compared it to a biology class dissection where Joy Behar was the frog on the table. He peeled back the layers: the obsession with virtue signaling, the total lack of nuance, the smug moral superiority that screams louder than any actual evidence. She didn't need to be named. It was crystal clear who the critique was aimed at. This wasn't some vague jab at liberal media. It was a full-on intellectual takedown of people like Joy, who act as if moral outrage is the same thing as making a point. Maher showed how shows like The View have become echo chambers, where disagreement is treated like betrayal, and where hosts act like emotional outbursts are just as good as facts. In his eyes, Joy isn't just wrong, she's the poster child for a media environment that's completely lost its grip on reality. And while Maher was busy rolling his eyes and cutting through the nonsense like a tired professor fed up with his students, Greg Gutfeld came in with a completely different vibe, louder, meaner, but somehow just as effective. Where Maher dismantled the ideology, Gutfeld went straight for the personality. And Joy Behar's personality gave him plenty to work with. He roasted her delivery, calling her a media elitist who thinks shouting over guests is a debate strategy. And when she launches into one of her dramatic monologues, Gutfeld doesn't argue, just laughs. To him, Joy isn't dangerous, she's ridiculous. A relic from an era when having a loud opinion automatically meant you were right, and her entire on-screen persona? Comedy gold. One of Gutfeld's harshest burns compared her commentary to a toddler banging on a piano. Technically it's still music, but only if you squint and pretend. And let's be honest, if you've watched The View lately, that description doesn't feel far off. It's chaotic, noisy, and full of people trying to outrage each other. But here's the part that really hit. Gutfeld didn't just mock Joy for being wrong, he mocked her for thinking she's important. For believing that her voice is somehow above criticism just because she's on daytime television. That arrogance, that's what made the roast sting. Because the second you think you're untouchable, someone like Gutfeld is going to show up and prove otherwise, with jokes sharp enough to leave a scar. And it didn't stop there. Gutfeld kept going, pulling out one of the most savage moments in the entire roast when he brought up Hurricane Sandy. Yep, he reminded everyone of that bizarre time Joy Behar got swept up in media coverage during the storm and somehow made it about herself. He joked that Joy should know all about hurricanes, since she once got carried away by one. The audience roared. Joy wasn't there to defend herself, but honestly, what could she have said? This wasn't just about poking fun. It was Gutfeld's way of showing how Joy turns every situation into a spotlight. Storms, scandals, social issue, it doesn't matter. She always finds a way to inject herself into the story, like she's the voice of the people, even when no one asked her to speak. While Maher's attacks focused on her message, Gutfeld ripped apart the messenger. He mocked her as someone who thinks volume equals value, someone who confuses moral rage with intelligence, and someone who built a career yelling over people and calling it a conversation. And when Gutfeld framed her as a blooper reel of serious journalism, it landed hard because, let's be honest, Joy's most viral moments aren't from insightful debates. They're from shouting matches, awkward slips, and out-of-touch rants. Gutfeld didn't need a well-researched argument. All he had to do was hold up a mirror. And what reflected back was a loud, exaggerated version of Joy that looked way too familiar. What made all of this even more powerful was the fact that Maher and Gutfeld didn't plan a thing yet, still ended up pointing at the exact same problem. Joy Behar wasn't just caught in some random crossfire. She was the target, the walking, talking example of how political talk shows have fallen apart. Both men came from opposite ends of the political universe, and without even talking to each other, circled the same issue like sharks sensing blood. Maher came at her with tired frustration, the kind you feel after listening to someone repeat the same bad take for the 100th time. Gutfeld, on the other hand, didn't even bother with patience. He just laughed. But both style-sewn sharp and cerebral, the other wild and sarcastic landed the same punch. That Joy Behar is no longer seen as a voice of reason. She's become a meme, a character, a parody of serious political discourse. And the wild part? Joy didn't even realize it was happening. She didn't have to respond for the message to hit. Her silence, her absence, made it even more brutal. Because the critique wasn't about her personally, it was about what she represents. A media figure so wrapped up in her own performance that she can't tell when the audience has stopped taking her seriously. So while Maher broke down the structure of her rhetoric and Gutfeld mocked the absurdity of her presence, together they turned her into something bigger, a symbol of how fake, loud, and out-of-touch daytime political talk has become. Then came one of the most eye-opening clips, Joy Behar casually saying she wouldn't donate a kidney to a friend who supports Trump. Not a stranger, not some online troll, a friend. She said it on air, tried to laugh it off, then doubled down with this bizarre moral justification like she was explaining some deep philosophical truth. But the only thing it really showed, how deep her resentment goes. It's not just about politics with Joy. It's personal. It's tribal. Either you agree with her or you're on the wrong side of humanity. And that kind of thinking is exactly what Bill Maher and Greg Gutfeld were calling out. You don't have to love Trump to see how insane it is to say you wouldn't save someone's life because they voted differently. It wasn't just petty, it was revealing. Maher has warned about this kind of mindset before, the kind that turns political disagreement into moral warfare. And Gutfeld? He couldn't resist. He joked, "It's a kidney, Joy, not a pizza." But that joke had teeth, because in that one moment, Joy showed just how far the outrage culture has twisted basic decency. She's not just debating policies anymore, she's turning politics into personal purity tests. And when your entire worldview depends on punishing people for not thinking like you, that's not activism, that's delusion. It was the perfect example of why Joy isn't just being mocked, she's being exposed. Not as evil, but as absurd, loud, angry, and weirdly proud of it. At this point, Joy Behar wasn't just being called out, she was being dissected like a case study in everything wrong with modern media. Bill Maher saw her as the result of progressive overkill, someone who once had good intentions but turned into a walking tantrum wrapped in applause cues. He never needed to say her name, because everything he described matched her to a Thosts who mistake emotion for intelligence, who treat disagreement as betrayal, and who act like the louder you yell, the more correct you are. To Maher, Joy is the cautionary tale. The person who thinks she's informing the audience when really, she's just preaching to a choir that claps out of habit. Every dramatic eye roll, every forced punchline, every moral lecturate's not helping anyone think deeper. It's just noise. And Maher, who spent decades debating serious issues, is clearly sick of it. Gutfeld took it from another angle. To him, Joy is the blooper reel of political journalism. Someone who shouts over guests, drops half-baked hot takes, and delivers them with the confidence of a college professor, except none of it actually makes sense. She's not the expert she pretends to be. She's the punchline that doesn't even know it's a joke. That's why this moment was bigger than just a roast. It was the merging of two wildly different voices, both fed up with the same exact problem. A media figure who's become more about performance than perspective. And Joy didn't just symbolize that problem, she embodied it. Loud, smug, and completely unaware that the world stopped clapping a long time ago. What makes Joy Behar's situation even more ironic is that she genuinely seems unaware of how far off the rails she's gone. There's this smug confidence that hangs around her like a perfume cloud at a yoga retreat, strong, overpowering, and impossible to ignore. And that's exactly what Bill Maher skewers and what Greg Gutfeld roasts. Maher sees that smugness as the product of a media culture that rewards outrage instead of insight. He's tired of watching people like Joy pretend that yelling louder makes you smarter. Gutfeld sees it too. But where Maher sighs, Gutfeld laughs. He turns it into entertainment because to him, the joke writes itself. The way Gutfeld framed it was savage and simple. Joy Behar is the media version of a fire alarm, loud, irritating, and completely disconnected from what's actually happening. Every time she talks, it feels less like a real discussion and more like someone pressing a panic button just to hear the sound. And that's why this roast worked so well. Maher and Gutfeld, without coordinating a thing, ended up demolishing the same person for the same reason. Not because of her politics, not even because of her personality, but because she represents a system where having a platform makes people think they have all the answer 7 when they don't. Together, Maher and Gutfeld exposed Joy Behar as less of a commentator and more of a caricature, a leftover from an old era of media that refuses to admit it's outdated. And the scariest part? She still thinks she's the smartest person in the room. In the end, the roast of Joy Behar wasn't just about making fun of one TV personality. It was about tearing down the illusion that shows like The View still stand for intelligent conversation. Maher and Gutfeld didn't agree on politics. They didn't need to. But they both sniffed out the same rot in the room. The way honest discourse has been smothered under a pile of applause lines, emotional theatrics, and overblown egos. Joy Behar became the perfect symbol of that decay. She doesn't debate, declares. She doesn't listen, she proclaims. The studio claps, the coffee mugs shine, and she acts like every hot take is a mic drop moment. But outside of that carefully controlled echo chamber, people are watching and cringing. Maher saw her as the fallen statue of progressive discourse, once powerful, now cracked and hollow. Gutfeld saw her as the bloated blooper reel of modern media, clumsy, self-important, and painfully out of touch. Neither one had to go looking for material. Joy is the material. And that's what made this roast hit so hard. It wasn't about owning the libs or dunking on the right. It was about comedy doing what it's supposed to do, calling out nonsense no matter who's spewing it. And in this case, the nonsense was wearing professional makeup, sipping from a View mug, and talking like she runs the country. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Also, drop your thoughts in the comments. See you on the next one.